TS10, you've probably heard about this pedal. It was apparently the favourite tube screamer for Stevie Vaughan, apparently, you know, one of John Mayer's favoured tube screamers. I happened to own one, partly because at the time, you know, I'd started to hear people talk about this. I think I paid about £180 for this. Now they're probably worth a little bit more than that, especially if they're in good condition. I wanted to look up some of the information on this. Now the TS10, I believe, came out in 1986, part of the Ibanez 10 series, which I think is one of the more unique kind of pedal designs out there. Kind of cool looking thing. This one is the Japanese model. They made some in Taiwan as well, and I think there's a variety of chips in them, but this one has the good chip. I wanted to kind of look this up. I found an article on GeoFX about the tube screamer that was written in 1998 by R.G. Keane, and he says that of the tube screamers from Ibanez, the TS10 is actually the most unique. There is an additional stage of emitter follower between the input buffer and the switching JFET, as well as a 220 ohm resistor in series with the positive input and a different bias voltage for the input buffer transistor. Now all of these things I presume are kind of small differences, but back in the day when this was written in 1998, it's quite interesting. The TS5 is a copy of the TS9, they say, and the TS10 is the sleeper, because you can buy one of these on the market apparently at the time for $20. Here's my clean tone. I think I really like this pedal. I do think it has a bit of a softness that you don't get so much with like the TS9 types. And it does generally have quite a nice It doesn't have, to my ears, quite as much hair as you get with some tube screamer type pedals. Even when you get the drive all the way up, for a tube screamer, this one Now we've seen some people actually do sort of clones of the TS10, so Wampler are probably the latest example to do it, but they always seem to make their own sort of little tweaks to it, and I can't help but think that those make meaningful changes in a way that these are kind of small pedals with a small amount of components, surely making any changes to that circuit, you know, even if you're adding in switches that potentially don't do a whole lot, you know, and maybe they're supposed to be like bypassing parts of the circuit or not. I just feel like maybe these things do make a difference. The other thing is that I don't know, does components in this sort of thing start to fail in a pleasing way before they actually fail? So given that this is from, you know, well over 30 years ago now, the components in here potentially have started to age in some sort of way. Is that a thing? But either way, when I've played the more modern clones of these things or heard them, it doesn't really seem to me that they get as close as they say they're getting to this thing. Now, I don't think this is particularly, it's like a tiny percentage more than what I'd get out of a normal tube screamer, but I feel like if you're going to call it a clone, then you'd want it to be to the extent that we care about a tube screamer. If you're going to clone a specific tube screamer, then you might as well just clone the thing properly, right? I don't know, that might just be me. Now, in theory, the metal screamer, if you're interested in the tube screamer TS10, specifically, this is supposed to be an identical circuit. So let's just sort of try that as an idea, see what we can get out of these. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is that close enough? Are you a fan of the TS10 or you think it's overhyped? Let me know your thinking. I think if you're a fan of tube screamers in general and they're a pedal that you always, gravitate towards, like for me personally, I do think definitely there's something about me, the tones that I go for, that this pronounced mid-hump works really well for me, especially as someone who plays a Strat an awful lot. I can see why people would go off of them. It might not be a sound that you always want to be using, especially if you're kind of a person going for edgier, kind of fuzzier tones or stuff like that. But for me, these are, I think the TS10 for me is like the perfect take on a tube screamer. I think this metal screamer to me definitely seems to be pretty close. I don't know if I had another tube screamer TS10 next to this, maybe the differences would be more obvious or not. I don't think I'd be able to tell those apart in a blind test comparison, and I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't even be able to tell the TS10 from a TS9 or TS808 or any other tube screamer in a blind test comparison either. I just know that when I plug into this one, it seems to do the tube screamer thing that I like best. Let me know your favourite tube screamer in the comments if you've got one. That's, I think, my top one. I also really like the Tate Effects Antares. That's a really cool one. And even the Ibanez TS Mini is awesome. And the Behringer Tube Overdrive, if you want to go for the really budget option that is still, a really decent sounding pedal, I think that one as well. I'll catch you in another video soon. Cheers for now.